Hey everybody, welcome back to Rebel Chumps channel. Today we're going to talk a little bit about lightsaber chassis. Chassis are basically the method to keep your soundboard or your battery, your soundboard and battery combination in place in a rattle-free, secure way. And we're going to take a look at a few examples here. So we got the traditional lightsaber type that everybody's familiar with, the Ultra Sabers and Saberforge type of stun sabers that basically have a battery pack loose in the hilt, and they try to secure said battery pack by putting some Velcro around it, but it still doesn't really work that well. So this is an Ultra Sabers with a 4-pack. Let me just zoom in properly. With a 4-pack, as you can see, 4 AAA batteries inside of the hilt. Because of the Velcro, it has a little bit less of a wiggle, but it still wiggles, and there's a lot of space in the hilt, and that means the battery pack can go up and down quite a bit in the hilt. Then you have a Saberforge Gladius here with a 18650 battery pack, as you can see. Let me see if I can zoom in properly because the camera doesn't want to focus. So 18650 battery with a Velcro, again the same as Ultra Sabers, but then by Saberforge. It goes in a little bit more snug, of course, and it does fit in there, but still it's not that secure and not the best practice to do it. Actually, let me put this one to the side because it's a pretty large hilt. So what makes a good lightsaber and what makes a good saber company? Good saber companies like the Vader's Vault and Saber Trio actually have a chassis. It can be either a 3D printed chassis, but in my personal opinion, I prefer a Delrin chassis because it's a stronger and harder material than the 3D printing material. It's more durable and it's more fit for purpose. So in this case we have the Vader's Vault Hero with the Delrin chassis. As you can see, we have the recharge port on top, and we have the crystal shard soundboard here, and then we have the speaker in the back. And what I like about these kind of chassis, basically everything is contained in a single piece that is milled out of a single piece of Delrin. And we have here a Saber Trio, and it has the same type of style. So the Saber Trio has a Delrin chassis as well, with a recharge port and a battery holder and the soundboard on the bottom. It has a notch as well in conjunction, which is sliding into the hilt, hits the Covertech wheel screw that sticks out a little bit in the hilt, so it keeps the chassis secure in place in a very specific way. So what happens is when you are doing dueling or spinning, the internals of the hilt are not flipping around in the hilt. Let's say with this Ultra Sabers, this is a very brittle type of battery pack, and all it does is being held in place with a little bit of Velcro, but this thing is literally dancing around in your hilt. When you do dueling or spinning, it just flicks around inside that hilt, and it has a high chance on actually causing damage to the electronics and the battery pack, or the battery to fall out, etc. With these kind of Delrin chassis, you're gonna have a very long lasting chassis on which everything is contained, and that is just what I much more prefer, and I want to see every saber company basically do. But it's not the case. Both Ultra Sabers and Saberforge, even though this is a stunt saber example, even their soundboard enabled soundboards, sabers, so you have to think about the Obsidian Light and the other soundboards, the Sabercore 3.0. those are just loose inside the hilt without a proper chassis, as you can see here, and you're paying the same amount of money or even more than these products here. For example, the Saber Trio runs you around $250 for this setup, and it's still much cheaper than a Saberforge or Ultra Sabers with soundboard and RGB option, because that's going to be much more expensive. But they have a proper chassis at Saber Trio, and Auto Sabers and Saber Force don't have that for at least the same money or even more money, and I think that's unexcusable. And I really think every good saber company already has a chassis, because you cannot sell these sabers anymore, because it is such a load and a potential hazard to damaging your electronics and your expensive and sensitive soundboard. You have an 18650 battery inside of your hilt. You want to keep that all nice and tidy. So the importance of picking a lightsaber that has a chassis that's either 3D printed or preferably, in my opinion, Delrin, that is really important. There's also other companies that have Delrin chassis. Then you have to think about Sabermach has the Delrin chassis as well in all their sabers. The Pastor has a 3D printed chassis. So again, they have chassis for their hilts, and I believe KR Sabers as well, 3D printed chassis. And it's just astounding to see that the big companies like Auto Sabers and Saber Forge, which are making a boatload of money of the products, don't even have a proper chassis. And it's actually quite discouraging. And I recommend anybody that want to buy a proper high-end, good quality lightsaber, if that's in the mid-range price or high-end range price, that depends of course the features what you get, the soundboard, etc., the RGB, but in general, go for a company that uses chassis for their sabers. Don't go for a saber company that doesn't have that and spend $400-500 US for a lightsaber where your electronics are just with a Velcro inside your hilt, because that is unexcusable, that is not good, and I highly discourage anybody to purchase a product that is in that fashion installed in their lightsaber. So guys, again, go pick up a lightsaber that has a chassis, because a chassis gonna make your life so much easier. It's gonna make your electronics feel secure inside the hilt. You don't have the rattling issues, you don't have electronics breaking on you. You have a very, very neat package, and that is exactly what you want when you spend maybe $250 to $700 US. You want to have a proper chassis. Really important, guys. Again, make sure you pick the right product for the right price. If it's like a cheap stunt saber without a chassis, let's say this is like a $40 to $50 US lightsaber, totally fine. It's just a beater saber. But even for the cheap ones, having a 3D printed chassis, it costs maybe cents these days. There is actually no more excuse even for stunt sabers to not have a chassis. And the technology is already well developed and mature to actually make very affordable, very, very, very cheap mass-produced 3D printed chassis or Delrin chassis from China. So no company ever should have an excuse for not having a chassis at all in their lightsaber, even if it's a stunt saber. Actually, I would say even especially for stunt sabers. And for stunt sabers, you need to have like a Teflon or Delrin chassis that absorbs all the shocks, because you're going to do spinnings with it, you're going to do dueling with it. It's going to have a lot of impact on that lightsaber. You want to have your electronics as secure and as tight and as proper installed as possible. And you need to have something proper. Daniel Lane, one of the most announced lightsaber spinners out there, he has developed his own lightsaber product with a Teflon chassis, which is really worth to check it out, because it's really durable and it's basically impact proof, and that keeps everything nice and tidy in the hilt. It's rattle free, and it basically avoids your electronics from being damaged, and you can keep making those awesome spins and doing flourishes and whatnot. So again, guys, hope you liked this video. Hopefully it was informative, but my 2 cents on this topic is a chassis is a must. It's either for a crystal reveal or just to keep the electronics nice and tight inside the hilt, rattle free in a way that is very neatly managed. It also helps to do the wiring management, because the wires are nicely funneled inside a chassis without having them all over the place loose in the hilt, which is a absolutely mess and a nightmare for anybody that needs to repair lightsabers. So this is much preferred over any other non-chassis lightsaber system. and I'm predominantly looking at Ultra Sabers and Saber Forts for not having that. And you might argue that your lightsaber is not having any issues, but that is just, I would say, playing with luck versus having an actual proper product in place. So again, guys, thank you for watching. Please stay tuned for more videos. We have weekly unboxing or full reviews regarding custom sabers, so always fun. Thanks for watching and see you, and as always guys, stay scummy.